What happens when the most powerful secrets in America are locked away, buried, and guarded like treasure, when the names inside those files could shake the foundations of politics, business, and entertainment? For years, the whispers have grown louder. Reporters hint at compromising footage, online forums flood with speculation, and even tech billionaires weigh in, suggesting that certain names are doing everything in their power to keep those files sealed. The question practically screams for an answer. If there's nothing in those documents, why are they being hidden? And why now, after promises of transparency, do we find silence instead?
Criminal immigrants pursuing legal pathways to immigrate to this country, and then illegally detaining them in horrific conditions, and even possibly deporting them despite the fact that they are here legally. You would think the committee with jurisdiction over the Department of Homeland Security would want to conduct oversight over the department's refusal to allow members of Congress to observe the conditions of DHS detention facilities. In fact, there is a specific statute that authorizes both Republicans and Democrats to conduct oversight over facilities that house or detain immigrants. But no, the department refuses. So we're here in the Homeland Security Committee, and I'm sure the Republican majority does not like it when this administration undermines its own authority, its own statutory authority, to conduct oversight. But no, instead of all of that, we are here talking yet again about Joe Biden. Newsflash, Joe Biden is not the president. He hasn't been the president for 7 months. So if we are going to conduct oversight here, why are we doing it about the Biden administration when this administration is literally detaining lawful permanent residents and even some U.S. citizens? And it gets worse. It's not just those masked ICE agents. There are many FBI agents who are being called away from their duties to investigate terrorism, violent gangs, child trafficking, and other crimes in order to help ICE arrest and detain immigrants with legal asylum claims, nonviolent. That makes our homeland less safe, not more safe. So we should hear from FBI Director Kash Patel about how many of his criminal investigators are being taken away from their criminal investigatory jobs, keeping Americans safe in order to help round up non-criminal immigrants trying to immigrate the right way. Some of these detainees are being held in Bureau of Prisons detention centers that are unfit for convicted criminals to stay in. We should hear from Pam Bondi about how much of the department's resources are being used to detain these nonviolent, non-criminal immigration detainees. And while they're here, we can ask them about a very pressing question. What's going on with the Epstein files? Donald Trump promised to release them. Pam Bondi said she had the files on her desk and that she was going to release them in the name of transparency. Kash Patel has spent years railing against the FBI to release the files. Many of my Republican colleagues were banging on the table to release the Epstein files. But now, all of a sudden, after a months-long review, Bondi and Patel say nothing to see here, no evidence that any American would want to see about accomplices, co-conspirators, or other people involved. Yesterday, the Republicans voted against releasing the files. So what's changed? Well, we all know Donald Trump has had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. He flew on his plane, he hung out at parties, spoke highly of him. And now there are many people saying that Donald Trump is included in the Epstein files. In fact, there are reporters who say that there are videos of him with topless women. Elon Musk even confirmed that Trump is blocking the release of these files because he's in them. Pam Bondi says there's nothing there. But Donald Trump even acknowledges that there is evidence there. It's just not credible. It's made up. This is a Truth Social post from 9:43 this morning. It is an admission that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. And the American people deserve to know whether he is or not.
Mr. Garbarino,
Mr. Chairman, I would, pursuant to Clause 2K6 of Rule 11...
Gentleman is not recognized. Your time has expired.
I have a motion,
Mr. Garbarino,
Mr. Chairman.
Recognized for questioning.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion.
Thank you, Mr.
The gentleman has a motion.
Pursuant to Clause 2K6 of Rule 11, I move that the committee subpoena Pam Bondi, Attorney General of the United States, and Kash Patel, the Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Mr. Chairman, motion to table.
Gentleman has a motion.
Motion to table.
Motion to table is privileged and non-debatable.
This isn't just a story about one person or one investigation. It's a story about how accountability can vanish when it threatens the elite, about how those sworn to uphold transparency suddenly look the other way, and about how congressional subpoenas are being wielded in a battle that's bigger than politics. It's about truth itself. For the next few minutes, stay with me, because once you see the layers of this unfolding drama, you'll never look at Washington the same way again. There's been chatter everywhere, rumors, claims, even social media screenshots. Some say footage exists of high-profile figures in compromising situations. Others claim billionaire insiders have confirmed that those same figures are using their influence to keep the files buried. You've probably seen the speculation online. Why would someone fight so hard against releasing documents if they truly contain nothing damaging? The mystery alone is enough to ignite public outrage, and that outrage is only growing louder. Reports suggest one prominent leader even posted early this morning, admitting the files mention him while brushing them off as not credible. That single admission, whether intentional or not, set off a political firestorm. Because credibility aside, acknowledgement is acknowledgement, and the people want to know what's really inside. Once upon a time, transparency was the promise. A top law enforcement official publicly declared the files were on her desk ready for release. She assured Americans that nothing would be swept under the rug, that sunshine was the best disinfectant. But months later, the story changed. Suddenly there was nothing to see here. No accomplices, no conspirators, no powerful names worth the public's attention, just silence. And that silence was deafening. It left critics asking what changed between then and now, who made the call, and who benefits from keeping those pages sealed. She wasn't alone. A fiery political operative once built his career railing against the FBI, demanding these files be made public. He called out the double standards, slammed the bureaucracy, and vowed that the truth must be set free. But when the moment finally came, when the files were supposedly reviewed, his voice went quiet. No more pounding the table, no more crusade for transparency, just the same refrain, nothing to see here. And the timing couldn't have been more suspicious. Because the very same week, Republicans in Congress voted against releasing the files altogether. Think about that for a moment. For years they hammered the table, demanding sunlight, swearing to expose the truth. And now, silence. Votes against transparency, the very opposite of what they once promised. Critics call it hypocrisy, plain and simple. Supporters scramble for explanations. But the reality is impossible to ignore. When push came to shove, the cries for accountability evaporated, and the files remained sealed. Enter Representative Dan Goldman. For him, this wasn't going to be swept aside. When the Homeland Security Committee convened, the air in the room was thick with tension. Republicans wanted to steer the conversation elsewhere. Distractions about past administrations, deflections. But Goldman wasn't having it. He came armed with subpoenas, prepared to force answers from those who had gone silent. His question was devastating in its simplicity. What happened to the files? Where are they? Why, after all the promises, after all the outrage, after all the political theater, are they suddenly buried? Goldman didn't stop there. He skewered the majority for wasting time on distractions, reminding them that the man they kept blaming hadn't been president for 7 months. Meanwhile, real abuses were happening right under their noses. Immigration detainees, many lawful residents, some even citizens, were being rounded up in secret raids, yanked from courtrooms where they were following the legal process. These weren't hardened criminals. These were families, mothers, fathers, children, and yet they were being stuffed into overcrowded facilities that weren't fit for anyone, let alone people with no violent history. Goldman argued that the Department of Homeland Security was not just negligent but actively obstructing oversight. By law, members of Congress have the authority to inspect detention facilities. It's written into statute, but DHS was stonewalling, refusing entry, ignoring oversight requests. It was a clear violation, illegal, outrageous, and yet instead of focusing on that urgent crisis, Republicans wanted to waste time rehashing old grievances about a man who was no longer in office. Goldman's frustration boiled over, and in that moment his point cut through the noise. Why cover for power while crushing the powerless? The clash over immigration oversight set the stage for his next strike. He turned back to the files, back to the promises made by leaders who now sat in silence. He invoked the names directly. The law enforcement official who said she had the files on her desk, the political operative who once championed transparency, and he held up the contrast, then versus now, shouting for sunlight one day, hiding behind excuses the next. And then came the most pointed revelation, a social post from earlier that very morning, in which the man at the center of speculation admitted, in his own words, that the files mention him. He brushed it off, dismissing it as fabricated, but the damage was done, because the admission itself confirmed what had long been whispered. The name appears. That revelation landed like a thunderclap. If nothing credible exists, fine, but why not let the public see for themselves? Why hide it? Why bury it? And who is being protected in the process? The connections aren't hard to trace. For years photographs circulated. Two men at parties, on private jets, at social gatherings, one praising the other publicly, calling him a terrific guy. These weren't hidden, they were in plain sight. And yet when the question of accountability comes up, the files remain sealed. Subpoenas ignored, votes cast against disclosure. The pattern is unmistakable: protection for the powerful, punishment for the vulnerable. That's why Goldman's subpoena matters so much. It isn't just paperwork. It's a line in the sand, a declaration that some in Congress refuse to let this go, that they won't allow the files to be buried under excuses, that they will demand answers even if it means going head-to-head with colleagues, with agencies, with the most powerful figures in the country. His move raised the stakes, because it's no longer just about speculation online or rumors whispered in the dark. It's about formal legal demands for the truth, and ignoring those demands has consequences. The broader implications are staggering. If these files remain hidden, what message does that send? That power protects itself, no matter the cost. That transparency is only for the powerless, never for the elite. That justice bends to influence, rather than standing on its own. And if that's the system we live in, what does it say about the state of democracy itself? America has seen cover-ups before: Watergate, Iran-Contra, scandals buried until journalists, whistleblowers, or determined lawmakers forced them into the light. Each time the cover-up proved worse than the crime. Each time public trust eroded further. The Epstein files could be the next chapter in that dark history. Or they could mark a turning point, where the people finally demand accountability, no matter whose name is on the page. So we circle back to the question: if there's nothing to hide, why keep it secret? Why bury files that were once promised for release? Why silence voices that once demanded transparency? And why admit to being mentioned in those files, only to claim the evidence is not credible? The tension in Washington isn't going away. Subpoenas will pile up, pressure will mount, and the American people will keep asking the question that no amount of silence can erase what's inside. This story isn't finished. Far from it. Every day brings new speculation, new posts, new hints that something larger is being shielded. And every day the pressure builds for those in power to choose between cover-up and accountability. If you believe in real oversight, not political theater, if you believe that no one, not even the most powerful, should be above the law, then don't let this conversation die here. Share this video, drop a comment with your thoughts, hit like if you believe in transparency, and subscribe, because we're not letting go of this story until the truth comes out. Justice doesn't happen in silence, it happens when we demand it, and together we'll keep demanding it, louder, stronger, and clearer than ever.